Hi everyone. It's Friday, March 10th, and I'm here, Nadia, author of Home is Within You, and it's chilly here, and as people are being notified and gathering here, I want to say that today's topic is going to be a fun one. It was inspired by my son Harrison and his quest to find his coyote friend. And so I just wanted to talk briefly about how remembering our childhood spirit animal or finding connection with animals and nature can help us connect to our own truth. What is Spiritual Advocacy Friday? This is all completely organic, okay? I had a long road of recovery from trauma and addiction. And as I wrote the book, there was this overriding theme about the need to connect with the truth within. Spiritual advocacy comes from that. It is three things. It is 1, individual healing. 2, compassionate responses. And 3, restorative justice. By individual healing, the first, I mean that by remembering the only truth that matters, and that is that we are infinite beings, whole, perfect, and complete in our truest form. We are not bodies nor the thoughts our mind makes. When we can work to have quiet time, to connect with our souls and that truth, we become more aware of how our minds function. Our minds, survivalist in nature, are constantly creating what I call attack thoughts. Those thoughts come in the form of fears and judgment on ourselves and on others, and separate us from our true self and from each other. Spiritual advocacy, secondly, is that when we are connected to our true selves, we are better able to recognize when others are projecting their fears and judgments. We are better able to protect ourselves from those projections and then move beyond ourselves and respond compassionately, whether it is to place boundaries or it is to ban shaming of others' responses to their own minds. That moves into the third phase of spiritual advocacy, which is restorative justice. The more that one human by one human being, the more communities by communities become aware of this only truth that matters, that we are all infinite beings, whole, perfect, and complete, merely surviving in a mind that sends attack thoughts. The more collectively that we can advocate for systems change and restorative justice when it comes to responses to mental health and addiction. I mean things like co-located treatment centers where parents and children can go together to get the help they need so generational trauma from forced separation doesn't happen. I mean where public perception of those struggling isn't shaming, isn't branding, isn't labeling, but is thinking deeper into why people are behaving a certain way. What is really going on within them? How can a community surround them rather than brand them with things like loser, unstable, leaving them more isolated? Those three things are spiritual advocacy. Self-compassion, individual healing, 1. 2, compassionate responses to those in our life, knowing when they are projecting. And 3, collectively advocating for restorative justice. Today's topic is a fun one. And at first I was asking myself, like, how on earth does this experience with one of my sons seeking his coyote friend last weekend at Joshua Tree and seeing this finding of a spirit animal, how does that relate to spiritual advocacy? Well, let me tell you the story first. Out and about with his Cub Scout group, they had a little handbook, and they had to identify plants and flowers and different animals, and then pretend like they were lizards sitting on a rock. And as he was reading there, he read about how the national park preserves hundreds of coyote packs. And dearest Harrison, my sweet gentle giant, I saw this adoration, this obsession in him. He wanted to find and get close to a coyote. Now, granted, coyotes aren't always quote unquote safe. They are hungry. They, by nature, are survivalist. They are hunting and gathering for their families, right? Well, as the day unfolded, he couldn't get close to a coyote. We went to our cabin, and as dark was falling upon us, he was insisting on going outside. The chill factor came in, the winds, and he was set. And so it took a lot of cajoling to get him back into the cabin, and I promised him that in the morning that would be the first thing that we would do. And so as soon as he woke up, he got up, pajamas on, barefoot, ran outside and went searching for his coyote friend. There actually was kind of some fun eeriness to it because there were large, like, bones, animal bones, kind of in a dirt pathway nearby. And so, you know, I kept saying, oh, it looks like maybe the coyotes were here. Well, sure enough, we walked a little bit more, and there was a load of coyote footprints and what looked like a little hustle or something. And so in Harrison's mind, he further had to go and find and see his coyote friend. An hour or so passed. We're going around, you know, looking at nature. It's breakfast time. I'm needing to make breakfast. Again, I convinced him to come back in finally. And in my heart, I thought, wow, I hope that there is a closer interaction for my son, because something in this animal is calling him. Something about the coyote. I have a few animals that I have connected to that I will share about. So I went into the kitchen and started making breakfast. And lo and behold, as I'm thinking from my mother deepest of hearts, I look out the window, and there, right on the hill, maybe 30 feet away, is a coyote, standing tall and grand like the king of the hill, looking out. That was rare because coyotes don't come out too late in the morning. They gather at night and then they go into their dens. And so I went up to Harrison and I whispered and I said, your coyote friend is here. And so excitingly yet calmly, he just knew it. He knew it would happen. So we walked outside and he pointed and he watched and he got a little closer and he was just in his element. Coyotes are extremely resourceful, independent. They are adaptable. That is what Harrison is. That is what he has had to do from an early age on, with changes within the four walls of his home, mommy having to leave, them coming with me, then them being taken, and now 2 households co-parenting. He has had to be adaptable, resourceful, independent. A part of me could focus on kind of the ache in my heart at his connection with a coyote. Yet a part of me, when we look at the symbolism of my dear son's spirit animal, one I'm sure of many, is that beauty. The beauty that he recognizes his own finite body and mind ways that are gifts. That at any point in life when he needs to tap into the coyote spirit, again, of independence, adaptability, tenacity, he will have that memory. He came home with a little coyote stuffed animal. I hope he has it for a long time. So I ask all of us, if children are so attuned into connecting with an animal that perhaps they see characteristics they identify with, what happens to us as adults? Yeah, we have our big old zoos, we go on trips, we look at giraffes, we are in awe, hopefully, when we see dolphins out in the ocean. We love animals. We have dogs as pets. But what happens to the real draw into why? For me personally, as a child, I was a little weird. My memory was really erased by some things that happened, both childhood trauma, junk, but I was super playful and adventurous, and I had all kinds of hobbies. And I think that the stuffed animal that I identified the most with was E.T. Not an animal, but this alien. And I think perhaps for some reason it was because I felt so different. I felt flawed. I felt, shamed. I was called Brownie, dirty girl. And I think that was some strange, bizarre reason why my E.T. doll was like my little creature I connected to. Later, funny story is that I was in flag football, and I'm really lanky, and my hands, they called me E.T. fingers. So that's just a funny side story. But later, I have so connected with wolves and with eagles. Wolves and eagles are my spirit animals. I've had dreams with them. Wolves, I was like a wolf during recovery. From treatment center, hospitalizations, short stints in jail, on this mode of like the coyote, but a wolf mother, mama, merely wanting to return recovered, healthy and stable back to my children. And so when we were together, protective, I acted like a mama wolf. And I find strength. I find stamina. I see this vigor and this fighting mama spirit in a wolf that is so there with me today. So I'm going to read a little bit more about wolves. The documentary, the IMAX films, Wolves, is absolutely one of my favorite soundtracks. And when I am called to connect with my indigenous roots and the spirit of wolves, just like Harrison was drawn into the coyote spirit animal, that indigenous music and flute and drum brings out that core animal survival mode that is not something to fear, yet is something to balance and to tap into. Eagles are another one, and that is because my father, who died very abruptly when I was 22 and in law school of a heart attack. Through him, I am a Hashem Navajo, and his tribe put a whole plume of eagle's feathers over him. And so anytime I see feathers, my kids will gather them also. It represents soaring free, connected to my infinite true self, and seeing that in others. When we can identify and find a glorious spirit animal or symbol, we can have pictures of it, symbols of it around. We can read about it, listen to music with the sounds. Add that little flavor and color in our life as just another little tool to remind us to connect to our true selves, our infinite, whole, perfect beings that our minds simply separate us from. So this weekend, wherever you're at, think about what your spirit animal is and why. Be like a kid. Read about it, heck, on your phone, wherever. Go to the library, but our phone is right there, and just say, why on earth was I so fascinated with dolphins as a child? Maybe my oldest son loved dolphins. Why is it that the tiger, the lion, the whatever, horses? Read a little more. Put those pictures up and let it serve as a reminder that you are loved, that you are whole, that you are complete in your truest form. I send you blessings and love and remind you, you can join me for Healing Kundalini Yoga on Sunday. The link is in the bio. Pre-order for Home is Within You is in the bio. Things are getting exciting. Release is April 26th of this year. You are not alone ever on your journey of trauma and addiction recovery. Sending love. Bye.